Welcome back, guys, to the Artful Podcast. It's Matteo here, your host. And in today's episode, I'm so excited about this episode. We have Bill Murphy, and it was an honor for me to interview him. He's such a big artist, and I'll just read quickly something that he did. He has taught at Wagner College on State Island in New York since 1984. His work is in the collection of more than a dozen museums, including the Brooklyn Museum, the British Museum, the New York Public Library, and the Library of Congress. Born in State Island in 1952, Bill studied at Brooklyn College, and it was such a great conversation, and I was really happy to talk to him. And we talked about his practice. We talked about the pressure of being an artist and how much pressure that we put on our back when we do art. And it was real fun. I really enjoyed it, and I was honored to interview Bill. We had a lovely time talking about art, and I wanted to point out that he has a book out. It's called Drawn from Life, and he has all his collection of drawings and printing, and please, I really recommend to go check it out. There is a link on his Instagram. It's called bill.murphy77, and you can just click on the link and it will bring you to the website where he's selling his book. And please go follow him as well on Instagram. It's such an amazing artist. And please enjoy Bill Studio Chat. So, in today's episode, we have Bill with us. Thank you, Bill, to have the time to and spend your time to be part of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure. Yeah.
And why you just going to introduce yourself a little bit, where you're from, and how you get into art and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So so my name is Bill Murphy, and I live in Staten Island, which is part of New York City, and I've been teaching. I taught at college for 35 years, and I've just retired now. But during that whole time, I guess I really focused a lot, as much as teaching, on, of course, my own work. And I'm a printmaker, painter, drawer. I kind of enjoy working in, I guess, multiple mediums. I've done that really my whole career now for 40 years. So that's what I do. I'll be glad to.
Yeah, real quick intro. Nothing too crazy. I really want to touch about the teaching aspect, because mm-hmm. I'm really curious of what you're thinking. But before that, I wanted to ask you. You said you retired already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you retire this year, or was it a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's been coming for a little while, and it's a funny thing, because I always tell people I've retired from teaching. I taught at Wagner College here on Staten Island, so I always say I've retired from Wagner, but I haven't retired from everything or anything else, really. Teaching.
Yeah.
I still enjoy teaching. In fact, I've been doing some critiques, individual critiques, and also a couple of classes via Zoom.
Okay.
Over the last couple of months, and so that's been a good opening up of new possibilities. I think it actually works pretty well, doing critiques and sort of one-on-one kind of individual sessions with people using the Zoom technique. It's really not bad working like that. You know, I've
That's
also
great.
taught I've taught a drawing class, and that's a little bit more challenging because you know there's a lot of things you like to do as you're talking to demonstrate things, and that's a little bit takes a lot more planning I find than if I was in the classroom.
Did you move your teaching online because obviously like COVID and the lockdown and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Whatever's been offered to me has always been offered through through Zoom. Because the various issues that are connected to it right now. So yeah, so it's been important to do it that way.
And how did you deal with the lockdown and the COVID quarantine? Did you manage to do your work or artistic work, or did
Yeah,
you?
I think for us older folks, it's been a little bit easier than for younger people. I mean, I often think like it has affected me. I mean, it's affected the kind of work I'm doing. I moved back and forth in my career as a landscape artist or a figure artist, portraits. And, I have found it hard to go out and to freely move around doing the landscape with the issue, because when you go out, you're sort of at the mercy of wherever you are. So, like, for instance, I would go sometimes to draw out in Brooklyn, or I might go to New Jersey to work on some landscapes around the harbor. And, you're dependent on a lot of things. Like you have to, you have to go to restaurants. You have to interchange. It isn't just purely like as if I was going to paint in my backyard. And for a long time, there was just a kind of in the beginning, the first few months, things were very, how could I put this? People were afraid to go out. I mean, it was an irrational fear perhaps, but there was that kind of quality of, like, I don't know if I want to go there right now. Not that there's an inherent or obvious issue, but something that would give you some pause to think about. It just wasn't as free as you would like it to be if you're working with the landscape.
I remember that especially at the beginning, and I think right now as well, like New York is getting really, it got really a big hit on like the COVID and the whole they actually like quarantine, and it was like a serious quarantine and lockdown.
Right.
Yeah,
true.
so I imagine like people were really afraid, and there are millions of people there, so I guess like everyone was like really careful. Yeah, of course.
Right. And it's like you think about getting on the subway with people all around you, and one thing and another. So, but I'm getting a vaccination in 2 days, so I think that's going to help me.
That's good.
I'll feel much more comfortable with that.
Yeah, they're doing here the whole vaccination quite well. It's obviously it's gonna take time, especially for younger people, because they're not like they're at risk. I think they kind of calculate like how long for people like me, like between the 25 and 30s, they will take their vaccination is gonna be like May, June. So it's gonna take a bit still for people like younger but yeah, that's I'm talking like that we finally we found it, and then we can just go back to normal, especially because it affects it doesn't affect like practice, like how long you will spend your time doing art, obviously, because for me I talk obviously like my personal experience, it wasn't that different for me. I don't really go out, I don't really do much anyway, and I literally spend all my time, even if I don't have a studio for like to work, but I always work at home anyway, and I just had the whole time for me and didn't really affect my practice. What affect the fact that I couldn't exhibit and I couldn't do anything else than just work, which could be sorry.
Yeah, what I was thinking even before was, we were talking about the landscape, and then what you just mentioned. Like for me, I've been working more with models over the last 2 or 3 years, and obviously that had to change. Having people, whether it was just in my studio or going to a class with other artists to work, that's all been, significantly changed with the problem of being in the same room with other people.
Yeah.
So we had a few drawing sessions out in the park.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a Spring Street studio in Manhattan where I draw at. Offered a model outside. I think probably at this point, now that it's colder, she's not doing it now, but it was very helpful, just to be able to go up and draw for a couple of hours and to get back into touch with working from life, because that's the preferable way that for me. But you find other things, you find some way to work, you find some way to keep going, and some of the drawings I've been doing in the last month or so have been using life masks. I don't know if you were.
I saw that.
But
I love one of the that you have where it looks like he has like a plastic on it. It's great. It's just great.
That was a mask I bought, which as I was unwrapping it, I looked at it and I said, "This is fantastic with the plastic on it." So even before I unwrapped it, I spent about 2 weeks working on those drawings. So. But you find things like that, like, I could still work from life. It wasn't, just working from a photograph. And to me, that's important. I like to go back and forth. I do use photographs. Sometimes I use a lot of photographs in my work, but I prefer, if possible, to keep going back to the inspiration of life and working that way. So.
Yeah, I guess it's how you used to do work, and how do you used to work, because I do a lot of I use a lot of picture. I like that because you capture the moment, and I kind of want to phrase that and try to represent that in my way. Obviously not. I don't like I don't use it because I want to make a similar picture of the photo. That's not what I'm interested in. I don't want to do the photocopy of the photo. It's more because I kind of try to capture the exact moment that I want to represent, and I choose the right picture for it. And that is just because I'm used to work like this. I did a lot of life drawing section, and when I was at uni especially. And it was great. It was a really different way of be there in the moment. There was more the beauty of that, because it's not the same. It's the beauty of being there and represent something that it's in front of you, and it might change in 2 minutes. It's beautiful, and it's just different from having a picture, because obviously you can pose and you can come back and you can work whenever you want.
One interesting thing about it is it's really different now and somebody who's a little bit younger might not realize, so if I wanted to work from photographs, let's say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I had to, take my photographs, drop them off to be processed. It was usually, if I really was really anxious, I could get it done the same day, but it was always a big hassle, and usually it was a day or two before you had those photographs, which gave you a certain amount of time to think about. You didn't even know what your photographs were going to look like. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
And now, one thing that I just read this recently, that there's the understanding that if you photograph something, God knows how many photographs are taken daily with cell phones, right? But if you photograph something, you don't hold it in your memory banks as well. In other words, if I want to do a drawing of something and I photograph it immediately, and I come home and I start looking at the photographs, I have the photograph that forms the experience to a large extent. But if I rely on either a quick drawing or my memory, it creates, the memory begins to cook it. It begins to modify the image and make it a little bit more into the image, which is in my mind. And so I think it's really important to watch how we use the photographs.
Yeah.
But having said that, I find that I have a whole group of things I've been doing, which are really could not be done without with the iPhone in my pocket, because I see people on the street that they come and they go, and there's no way I could record them without that. And that has led to some drawings and monoprints that I've done based on those images, so that can be really important too. So I try not to limit myself. There are people who say, I only work from photographs.
No, I completely agree.
There's people who say, I only work from life, right? And that's good. I mean, if that fulfills what you want to do, then that's good, I think,
It's true. There is a few times where obviously here it's not that great because it's always raining, England. But what I do sometimes is going out there with just a sketchbook and try to capture like as quick as I can with just a pencil or a pen, just to exercise. I see that as an exercise, which is just throw you off. I think it's really important. That's what I've been working, especially this summer actually. I've been working on something that I'm not used to, so it's just throw myself in an uncomfortable zone, and try to go with it and try to see what good can come out. And I think it's really important for an artist to do that. It's not being stuck in what you like and what you can do, and everyone knows you can do that. And I think it's really good if you can try to like just different way of like of how to do art, and just to see what it comes out, or just to exercise, just to keep your mind like fresh. And I think it's really helpful in general. So I completely agree with what you're saying right now.
Yeah, you see artists as you get older, you see artists your age and older that have really been making the same pictures for 30 or 40 years with variations. And then you see artists who continually change, and they're in their 70s and 80s, and they're still experimenting, and I have a lot of respect for that, because as you say, you have to make yourself a little uncomfortable from time to time. You really do. And the problem is this last year of the lockdown, we've all been very comfortable in a way, uncomfortably comfortable.
For sure. Why you don't tell us about a little bit of your background? So did you do any study, you university or stuff like that?
Sure. So I went to the School of Visual Arts. After high school, I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. And that was really interesting because that was in the 1970s. And at that point, things were really, any kind of education, but particularly art education, was extremely loose. There was none of what you see now in terms of like, there's a lot of these smaller schools that are teaching kind of an academic training in drawing and painting from life. And that really did not exist. I got almost none of that when I was in school. And whatever I do that's at all in that direction was totally improvised by myself, because I wanted to work a particular way. So I had to figure everything out, I guess, for myself, really, and then, so the next, I also went to graduate school, but that wasn't until my early 40s. I had to get a degree so I could continue teaching. I had to get the Master's of Fine Arts, and that was an interesting experience in that it threw me into kind of the more contemporary part of the art practice, if you want to call it, that I still avoid, but a lot of people are very involved with more of a contemporary, a dialogue, and trying to, as somebody once explained it to me, trying to explain yourself today in the chain of art history, leading up to today. I never think like that when I work. That's not. I'm much more interested in my own internal ideas, compulsions, observations, obsessions.
Yeah.
I'm not that interested in what other. Not that I'm not interested in what other people do, but I'm not that interested in the art world as a continuing point of reference. It just doesn't. A lot of what I see visually is not very interesting, and that's the first thing for me. Is it really needs to be visually engaging.
It is visual.
Yeah.
That's so you don't kind of go back and try to I don't know, get inspiration by what people did before in the past.
Oh yeah. Well, that, I mean, if I'm going to go look at art, I'm going to go to the Metropolitan Museum, most of the time, because I know I'm going to see 20, 50, 100 fantastic paintings,
La crème de la crème, yeah.
That I will be inspired by. But if I go to a gallery in Manhattan, if I go to a building that has 10 galleries in it in Manhattan, I might see one show that I think interests me. So much work in the contemporary world just doesn't resonate. And I think I'm past the point of working towards forcing myself to respond to work that I don't have the response for.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Obviously, it's obviously not to bring anyone down. Obviously, everyone is free to do whatever they want and how they want it. But it's just different quality. It's you want to go to, if you want to gain inspiration, especially to museum and places like that they are full of masters and real good people, like artists that made real good art. And it might be good just to go to a contemporary art gallery now, just spend the day and I don't know, see artworks and stuff like that. But if you want to get inspiration, if you want to get something that really moves you, I agree. I would go to a museum and where I know where like the real deal is, kind of thing. But
somebody said this to me recently, that you and I have seen, if you've looked on your Instagram feed this morning, you've probably seen more paintings today in 2 hours than Rembrandt saw in his entire life.
Yeah.
Think about it, right? Because to see work in the 1600s, the 1500s, or the 1700s, or even probably up until the 1900s, you had to travel to see other artists.
Yeah, it's true.
You had to travel to other cities, and now we are bombarded so much with the visual stimulation.
You can even go and visit like museum, like in virtual like exhibitions, stuff like that. So it's literally like if you
right.
it's on your hand every second of your day if you want to.
Right.
And it can be overwhelming. It can be too much, and it can throw you off in a way. Then the isolation of being an artist, I think it's really good to have those periods where you don't even see any art for a while, and you just try to work out what you really want to do and how you want to do it. I think those are really important moments for an artist, because being always at the center of the art and being bombarded from picture and colors and stuff like that, it can throw you off. It can be really overwhelming for an artist.
Yeah. The other thing is, looking at art on a screen, whether it's your phone or even a big monitor, is very different than obviously than looking at it in real life, but also it's different than looking at it in a book. I find that when I pick out an artist that I like, one of the books I have, uh, the visual experience, it just resonates longer. It stays with me more. There's something very transient and very impermanent about looking at it on the screen. And I've talked to people, and most people I speak to seem to agree with that. And I don't know why that is, because you are looking at a flat image, just one is on a screen. But when it's printed in a book, somehow even that, it just stays longer with me,
I don't know. I guess it just I don't know. That's really interesting, because it is true. It's the same flat images kind of thing. I think obviously like the quality of the color can be different, because obviously it's like digital and light color. It's not like pigments and stuff like that. So we might relate more with the book probably.
Yeah. I was looking, show a student, I was looking up a painting, and I found 5 reproductions of the painting, and each one was so different.
Yeah.
Online, because people, you don't know, it's like, as they say, fake news. You don't know what's real, and you don't know what has been manipulated by someone. So you find it and you think, oh, this is the painting. And then you see another version of the exact painting, and it's radically different.
Yeah, it can even change in a gallery. Like you're there in real life, but the lighting, if you change the lighting, it can literally change the picture from night to day. Like it's true. It's you never know what you're looking at, if it's the real one or not. Let's talk about a bit your practice, and because obviously I think I've been following you for like on Instagram, obviously for a long time now, because I really liked your work from the beginning. I love drawings, and I even spent 2 years only drawings, not without touch any paint, without do anything else than drawing, just because I really like it, and I think that's what drawing me, like draw myself, like see your stuff on Instagram. It's the drawings are like a big part of your practice. I can tell if it's not.
Yeah, I mean, drawing was always, that's what I did. My mother used to say that I drew before I spoke. I guess that might be true with a lot of but my earliest memories, I can't remember a time where I didn't draw. And yeah, it's always been there for me. And I think that, I certainly like to paint, and and I make prints, which of course are heavily, a print is basically to me just another medium for drawing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drawing, I think, is at the basis of everything that I do. Absolutely.
Did you feel that your practice changed over time, since like you started being an artist and till like now?
Yeah, it hasn't. And what's interesting is that it hasn't too at the same time. In other words, a lot of what I did, let's say when I was 25 years old and starting out, I have clear memories of going out to work. I read that Whistler used to just take a group of etching plates with him, different sizes, and he would walk around London until he found something that really attracted him, and he would sit down and draw. And so I began to do that. Only, I went in my car and I would drive around, and I still do that. There are times where I don't know what I want to do, and I'll just go out for a drive and bring some drawing pad or whatever. And that kind of, there are parts of it that haven't changed at all. On the other hand, as you get older, your temperament is a little different. when I was younger, I would start many things and abandon many things before I found something that really I wanted to stay with. And I think now I can get to that point a little quicker in the thought process beforehand. Before I start working, I can kind of figure out this is going to work or this isn't going to attract me. This is exciting. And what I've really learned, I would say, is to follow my intuition. And my intuition, and that's such a big word. We could talk probably for hours about that word, because what is the intuition? But for an artist, I think an artist has to develop their intuition, at least from my viewpoint. And that thing we call the intuition is what sort of pulls you, guides you. It tells me, not in a verbal way, but I sort of know when I'm going in the right direction or when I'm going in the wrong direction. And when I feel, the other part of that is the engagement. When you feel engaged, you are engaged.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for. There's nothing else really besides engagement that I want out of the work. I want to feel involved with it.
I completely agree. It's I spend so many times talking to people and be like, because sometimes it can be hard to like sell your artwork, and obviously it's not something that people want to spend money like that easily. It's not something they need, or that it's so I spend so many times discussing with people about why you don't paint or you don't draw something that you can sell. There are some sort of picture, sort of stuff that they're gonna sell, and it's easy for people to understand, and they might be able to buy it easily. But if you're not involved, if you don't have that connection with what you're doing, it seems like really cheesy to say, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work like that. It's not I completely agree with that. You need to have that connection with what you're doing and what you try to represent, because it will not come out right when you do it.
Right. Yeah. I think that, I learned a long time ago that the thing you're going to do best is the thing that you want to do. When you see people making commercial art, that's what they want to do. Very rarely do they have some burning desire to do something else behind that. So they do it well, and they make money from it. And, money can be a big guiding principle. And it can, I was going to say, the second reason to make art after the feeling of being engaged and involved is because you have to make money. And I would not be honest if I didn't say that I have done that. Probably more often than I wished I had to. But the reality of life is that we need to live. And I know very few artists, and I know some pretty well-known artists, but I know very few that have made enough money from selling their work to support themselves. They've either had to teach or do things like commissions, illustrations, portraits, things like that. So that's what I do. For example, like I take commission, and sometimes it's not what you want to do, like painting like a kid of somebody, but it's your job in the end, and you just do it, and it's fine like that. And we're talking about the connection and the instinct of an artist. What does struck you to a subject? What does interest you about a subject that you want to do, you want to paint, or you want to draw it? That's another really big topic, and if I wish I could answer that. If I could answer it,
it's easier to do the question than the answer.
I ask myself that all the time. And the thing is, okay, so it gets into the really, I mean, this is the part now at this point in my life that interests me the most is where do ideas come from? I'm always interested in how artists work. I'm interested in how I've been reading some biographies of Einstein, and I understand. I think I understand what what he talked about when he would say that an idea or his discoveries didn't come through a long process of concentration, of thought, of sitting down at the desk. He might do that, but then, waiting for an elevator came, I think a big part of the theory of relativity came to him as, I think, I might be totally messing this up, but came to him while he was waiting for an elevator. And he was watching the needle that showed what floor, and he began to understand. It just came to him as a momentary insight. It's something that happens like that. And that's how not all of my work, but a lot of my work has happened over the years where you need to be in a particular kind of state. If you're very taken at that moment with thought, with the day-to-day, the parts of life, that grab us every day, if you're very filled up with that, there really isn't the room for that other part of ourselves to come out, to emerge. Somebody wants to find it as like the bigger mind that's behind our small mind. The small mind is our thinking mind. That's the mind that's always chattering and talking and moving, and but that bigger part of us, that needs to emerge. So when there are those moments where it just happens, and for me, the trigger can be light. Light is, for me, a very it sounds trite to say it's very important, but it's everything really, and it's transcendent. It overwhelms me at times when I see the particular light situations. It could be at night, or it could be anytime really. Whatever the light is, can be really. It speaks to something much deeper than the conscious mind. In me, it goes into that part of, if you want to think of it as essence or whatever it is, that deeper part of ourselves. So I look for light as an inspiration, but I can't plan it. I don't think.
That's very interesting. I think sometimes people don't realize how important can be, because I come from, obviously I'm from Italy, and I'm a big fan of the old master like Caravaggio and all these Caravaggesque artists that light and the relationship with dark.
Right.
It's so important, and so it's so dramatic and so theatrical that it's like it speaks to people like in a way that only that can do. But yeah, like I spent, as I said before, I spent 2 years only drawings, and what I was looking into those pictures in those drawings, it was the relationship with like the charcoal, the darkest area that I could do with the charcoal, with the brightest part of the drawing, and it was just a battling between dark and light until I got to the point that I think was a good result. But yeah, light is such an important part of a drawing, especially. But as a painter as well, it's so important to find the right balance between the two. And yeah, I think this is one of the biggest things that you can look into an artwork, if it's used on the right way, obviously.
Right. It's a funny thing, because you asked me, do things has the process changed as I've gotten older? And what happens now a lot of times is I keep a long list of things that I think I may want to draw, like a particular time or a building that I see in a certain light. what happens a lot of times, it's very interesting, and at least half a dozen times come to mind when I think of this. I'll say, okay, I'm not working on anything. Let me go take a look at the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm going to drive through Brooklyn. I'm going to go over to Brooklyn, and I'm going to look at the Brooklyn Bridge in the late afternoon, and I'm going to, maybe I can do something of that, On the way there, I suddenly look out the window, and there's the Gowanus Canal, and it's a beautiful very old part of New York City. And it hits me, wow, wait a minute, let's take a look here. And you go down there, and you might be heading for the 9th Street subway station, and suddenly something comes from over here that you see an old building here that's being, that they're taking down, and it's like, wow, look at that. So, you plan something, but very rarely does the plan become fulfilled in the way that the initial planning thought it would, but you've gotten something. The thing is to get out. For me, a lot of times is to get out. Now, other people, of course, have very different working ways, but I like to get out and experience the world, and then things come at you. You may see somebody, you may see a person instead of a landscape. You might be going to do a landscape, and somebody walks by you, and wow, look at that. And that's where I was mentioning the iPhone drawings that I've been doing, where I see somebody on the street that just, is fantastic, that you just want to draw. And you could go up to them and you could try and work something out, but it offers so many issues, particularly right now, obviously, right? So,
I feel like you make me want to do this right now, to be honest, because it's literally like, I think I don't do that much of that, and it can be really fun. As you're talking, I was like, that would be great. I want to do that right now. But for sure, I'm definitely gonna explore that more. Because you can get as an artist, you can get sucked in your studio or your space where you work, and the only thing you're thinking it's art, and the only thing you're thinking it's finish the artwork, and sometimes you don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy the little things, the little, let me go out and just go draw, like without having to do the perfect drawing, the perfect artwork, just for fun. Just go there and do it for fun, which I think
is what you should be doing it for, right? Yeah. I mean, if you go out and anytime you're drawing the model and you say, "Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do such a great drawing today." You have this weight with you sometimes that keeps you from going into that place of, let me try something I haven't tried. What haven't I tried? Now, the problem is when you get old, there isn't that much that you haven't really tried in terms of drawing. You have to really start digging deeper. You have to really look for, there's all these techniques that I've used over the years, change the scale. So sometimes maybe you want to work really small, like 3 inches, 4 inches, right? Maybe that can be something that'll make you really think in a different way and look in a different way. Or maybe, you want to try a medium you haven't tried, right? But eventually, you sort of have started exhausting that technique of keeping yourself a little more awake while you're drawing. And you have to really, I find it becomes a little more challenging in finding that helpful technique of shaking yourself up a little bit. I used to have I would have my drawing students draw with the opposite hand. So if they are right-handed, I would have them draw the model with the left hand, because it really brings you back in touch with the sensation of holding the pencil, of what you're doing. And it makes it they would get very frustrated, and they couldn't let go of that idea of trying to make a perfectly accurate drawing and just go with the sensation and the sense the sensual part of holding a charcoal or a pencil, and the feeling the line being made by your hand.
It's true. I did ask you because about what you looking for your subject, because when I was going through your Instagram, I was impressed by the vast range of subject that you have. You have landscape, you have printmaking, which I want to talk a little bit about, and then you have you have some mask drawing as well. It's such like a big range of art and of subject more than artworks. Then I was really curious, what does it draw you to a subject? Because
I mean, that's really, that's exactly a continuation of what I was just saying. I start feeling like the thing is kind of stale. Like, I've done this. The big thing now is when I'm starting anything, it's like, have I made this drawing before? I mean, not this exact drawing, but what is different about this? What is offering me a new challenge here? Like it could be this, it could be the subject, it could be the medium, it could be the size, it could be it could be any number of things, but there has to be something there that's going to designate this for me, as the experience is going to be an experience I haven't had yet. So one of the things about 2 years ago, when I was, because you reach that point and you find yourself being really bored while you're drawing or painting, and I just picked up a piece of cardboard and I began drawing on very cheap corrugated cardboard. Yet it gave me something because I didn't take it so seriously. I did one drawing where I must have put, if we made a list of the techniques of the mediums that went into the drawing, there's probably 10 or 12 different charcoal, ink, pencil, pastel, and it was fun. I mean, that's the main thing, is that it's an experience that you can tell when you're drawing, that when you don't want it to end, you don't want to stop drawing.
Yeah.
You want to keep going, even though you've been drawing for 3 hours or 4 hours, you don't want to stop. So you're working. I think at that point, for me, that's like a key to know that I'm working in the right direction.
There is the sensation that you don't like, that feeling that like it's something good, it's happening, and you don't wanna stop.
You're engaged. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. The feeling of engagement.
What about your printmaking? Because I saw a lot of printmaking stuff, and it's something that how important is in your practice, because some people can use as only as a different way of sketching, of drawing, and just to see how the final result will be. Or is there something that you really dedicate a lot of time to it, and something like that's it's really important for your practice?
Yeah, I think that I've always had the feeling that even if I could only make one print from an etching plate or a lithographic stone, I would still do it, because there's something so uniquely about that image that you can't really do that. And you could do maybe some etchings, you could almost do an ink drawing to mimic it, but the experience of drawing on metal, the experience of drawing on a lithographic stone. I think a lot of people today particularly have never drawn on a lithographic stone, and if it's grained, if it has a nice grain to it, it's unlike, with a grease crayon, it's unlike drawing really on anything else, because it is so responsive. The slightest change of pressure creates a different tone. So you feel like, wow, this is listening to everything I'm saying as I draw. It's a very I love it when it happens. It brings out a certain type of drawing for me on for instance, a lithographic stone. The same thing with an etching. Now with etching, I do try to bring other tech, which will be like it's almost like a wash.
Sorry,
like
can you
watercolor?
Can you repeat about the etching because the connection kind of lost?
Yeah. So an etching, is also a very unique way of drawing because you're drawing on metal. And what I use, most of my work is done with a sewing needle, which I draw with. And but there are other ways of getting marks onto the plate. And one of them is using an aquatint, which is kind of a tonal. If you've done watercolors, you would know, it's sort of like taking a wash, which is mixing up with a lot of water and putting a flat area down. And then if you want, you can modulate that flat area, make it some areas darker. I mean, there are people who make almost photographic images using the aquatint technique. I don't like to get that technical with it. Particularly as time has gone on, I've gotten a little bit more freer with it, and I've only recently begun doing some dry point etchings, which is when you actually work right onto the plate with a diamond tip needle, and you actually do work with pressure. So you have to really, to get a dark line, you really have to press hard, so you're never going to get a smooth, beautiful kind of curvy line. It's going to have a certain kind of look to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a hard medium for people. I mean, I only recently have started doing just pure dry points. I used to always use it with the etching technique, but now I've actually done a couple where it's only the dry point line, and it gives a very particular kind of look to it, which is unlike anything else, really. Once you understand, once you've been doing it, that, you see that, and you come to understand that, I think.
I have so much respect for printmakers, because you need to have so much patience for making a print. And not only if you want to do like a series of the same print, it's really physical and it's really like tiring, and I have so much respect. I've tried few techniques printmaking, something that I didn't fall in love, and it's the only thing I really liked was the dry point technique, and just because the result of the print, it's really rough, and it's really like it's not that precise, and I really like that result of the dry point. But yeah, I did etching for a bit, and it's really so much work, and I have so much respect for like who does that constant.
One of the nice things about it is it has not changed a lot.
I love that.
A lot since the days of Rembrandt, and so I'm basically using the same technique he did. Maybe a couple of new materials here and there, but it's pretty much, it's a different. It's pretty much the same technique. And one of my favorite quotes about printmaking, the American printmaker John Taylor Arms said that printmaking is the most democratic of mediums and also the most aristocratic of mediums. And I think what he meant, as I understood it, was that you can make a print and you can give it to somebody. You can give it to your friend or give it away, or you can sell it, right? Yeah. You can sell 50 of them or 100 and you still have the original, right? But the aristocratic, the aristocracy part is you have to, first of all, have a press. You have, if you're doing lithography, you need to have lithographic stones. You need to have all your etching equipment. You have to have acids and solvents, right?
Yeah, it's really, it's a jump.
And you have to know how to use them, which is also a big part. And that takes a while too to learn. So, it's an interesting, yes, it takes a lot of understanding and a lot of technique. But the nice thing about it is, you can make a print and just give it to someone or sell it to someone and still have one for yourself, So it's an interesting. That's an interesting part of it, also, outside of the actual process of drawing.
Yeah, the process. It's when I was doing it. It just it felt like a jump in the past, because you need to have like this printing machine that it looks like it's from the 18th century. It's like the whole big wheel that you have to turn, and like in like the etching part, it's literally like a jump into the past. And I really loved that kind of feeling of
Right.
oh, I feel like I'm one of the old master working at something.
Well, we could take one of Rembrandt's plates today. I understand there's a person who collects them and has like a lot of them, and we could try and borrow one from him, and we could print it, and it would be we would be printing the plate that Rembrandt drew, which is a pretty amazing thing. Now, those plates, unfortunately, have been some of them have been retooled so many times, because they you can make money from them, so they redo, they go over the lines, and once they get worn down, keep printing them.
I want to talk about a little bit of the teaching part of your career, and because I'm really interested on especially because you've done it for a long time. Do you think it changed through time, and how did it felt teaching art as well? Because I think you are the first that I'm interviewing that you was a teacher as well as an artist, so I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, I taught at a college which did not have a lot of art majors, so my experience there was a little different than my experience. Last winter, before the lockdown, I started teaching at the Art Students League in Manhattan, and then I taught some things over the summer with people who were a little, who were there because they wanted to be there. They weren't just trying to get a degree. So it's enormously different. I find that when you have people who are doing this because they really genuinely want to do this, they're not interested in, they're not in college, and they're not there to get the degree, but they're there because they really want to be. So that is it's who you are teaching that is really important, I think, on a certain level. And when I've always been my best teacher, I've always been the best teacher that I can be when I'm with people who are really eager to learn. And again, they're not just going through the motions, but that's a really important thing that I learned. So I'm really looking forward to doing more of that teaching. And, the thing I liked about teaching is that before I became a college teacher, I did a few different things to make a living. I did illustrations for a while. And of course, illustration 30 years ago was a lot different than it is now. It's been changed radically. It's not quite the field it was. But when I started out as an illustrator, I found that it really wasn't for me to have the limitations that illustration put up. I couldn't do my best work when an art director would tell me, this is what he wants the image to look like, and it has to be done by the day after tomorrow. So it would be, all these pressures and all these limitations. Some people like that. Some people need that actually to be creative. But for me, I like, I do my best work when it's open-ended and I can kind of follow different ideas until I find what I really want to do and so forth. And so I started as an illustrator, and I found that teaching, the thing I liked about teaching was it was much cleaner. It didn't mix up my, if you want to think of it as skill or talent as an artist, with making money. I mean, it would be, you were using that, but it had nothing to do with making an image that you were going to sell to somebody. And I think that creates a lot of issues for people, myself included, because you want to do the best work you can, and yet you're not really free to, because you have to meet these requirements of I think it was Salvador Dali said, an artist has to be absolutely, totally free making an image. I remember reading that quote, and it hit me as really being true, because as soon as you put the limitation on, for instance, the portrait, the person is going to have to like it, that you're doing it for. They're paying you money, so you have to please them. It's a rare person who will say, I want you to do a portrait, but I want you to do any way that you want to do it. Right? You always feel that obligation to make them, to satisfy them.
Yeah.
So that is a requirement that gets put on you, which limits your freedom of thought, I think, your freedom of mobility with it, you know.
Yeah. As somebody that has had some commission, few commission during the years, I had really I can count on my hand like who was for real. Oh, I just won a painting of yours with like how you made your painting. Like they always try to direct you and try to make the picture that they want, and they kind of like they trust you but not really, so they kind of still kind of give direction to for the picture. The
ego's bigger than
yeah, exactly. And I remember it was this my girlfriend's sister, so she's really close to me, and she was the only one that I remember that actually gave me the time that I needed and how I wanted to do it. The only thing that she wanted, I want my kids, and if you can put gold leaf in the painting, because at the time I was using gold leaf, and I was like, yeah, it's great. And I couldn't capture one of the 3 kids that she has, and I remember it took I think it was almost 2 years before I finished the triptych, and it took me so long, and she was so patient, and she was just waiting for me to finish those painting. And it's uncomfortable be like I didn't get it, because sometimes it's not about the skills, it's not about like you cannot replicate the person, it just doesn't feel right, especially if it's a person, if it's a portrait, for me. And I wasn't able to represent the essence of the kid, and I wasn't happy with those drawings that I was doing. I was like, I'm sorry, but you need to wait. And it took me almost 2 years to finish the whole triptych, and I really like like how they end up in the end. So I'm really happy with it, but you don't find those people like that often, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
They want to now, and they pay for it, so you kind of like make sense that they push you in a certain direction. But yeah, if you want a painting from somebody and you really like their work, you just wait and make them do what they need to do, and you want to get
their best work. But I learned that most people are not interested in getting your best work. Most of the portraiture that I did, not all of it, but a lot of it was about giving them the best image of themselves in some way. And they really, they'd appreciate it, a beautiful drawing or anything, but bottom line is they got to look the way that they think they should look, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that in, then it's going to be an issue.
They send you the best picture. They send you.
Right. So it's portraitures are really. I think it's almost impossible unless you're doing it totally for yourself now, right? If you're doing the portrait for yourself, then that's a different situation. You're paying them to sit for you is different than they paying you to do a painting for them. So, portraiture can be great, it still can be, but commission portraits are much more problematic.
Yeah, it's true. And how do you because I want to talk about your teaching career, because my experience with art institution, it's really positive in the end. Like I've really enjoyed the whole. I did only 4 years of like study in total, I did 3 years on university and 1 year in college, and my total, like in the end, I was really happy with them, especially with the university. But there was some aspect that I kind of not agree with the institution, like how the course was pushed, and especially the people that were there, because obviously university, you find those like you find young people, these that have like 19, 20, 21 years old, that they come to university and they want to do art. But most of the people, I don't know if it's only my experience and it was only my class, but most of the people were there just because they wanted to get a degree, and they wanted to I don't know, spend 3 years at university. But because I started university later in my life, I was it was 3-4 years ago, so I was 24, 25, and I decided to be there. I wanted to be there, and I took that really seriously. And sometimes it was really fun being there, and the teacher could tell who wanted to be there and who doesn't want to be there, and is there just because. And I think like people should wait till they jump into the university, especially for art, because they don't do it just because, and they don't do it just because everyone says you're good at drawing. They should do it because they really want to be an artist, especially because my course, where I did, and that's what I really liked about my course, it was more pushing, it wasn't teaching, there were technical class, but it wasn't only that. It was more like thinking as an artist, and like it was more working on your idea, and on the fact that you wanna be an artist when you go out of university. And I think it was really important for me to be there and have that kind of course, because I could draw. I needed to push my mind in a certain mindset, and that's what I needed to do, and that was the perfect course for me. But yeah, as a teacher, what was your impression of, like, if somebody is there and it doesn't want to be there, as a kind?
Well, I certainly had that experience. I taught at a college that had a lot of athletes in it, and they were people who probably wouldn't be in college if they weren't playing football or basketball. And to graduate, they inevitably had to take an art class. So it was problematic. You know, I often thought about the fact that had I taught at an art school, I would not have made as much money, but I would have had probably a much better experience. So I'm trying to do that now. I'm trying to actually, have the more fulfilling experiences of working with students that really are taking it. They're not there for a degree. They're there because they want to further their understanding with drawing, painting. Yeah.
I just thought it must be really frustrating for teachers and find those people. It's nothing. Obviously, they don't do nothing bad in the end, but it's just
right.
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be really. It can be much. It can be too much to handle and talk to them and be like, guys, do you want to be here? If you want to, just be here.
That's right. But it's like when you think of contemporary life, it's actually a pretty small inconvenience compared with a lot of people. Yeah. What a lot of people have to go through.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Do you wanna talk about a little bit of do you paint? Do you do some painting?
Yeah, I mean, I've always painted. I'm gonna say about maybe 15 years ago, I decided that, even though my painting at times was I would spend more time. There were years where I spent probably more time with oil painting and watercolor painting than with drawing or making prints. I felt that there was more attention given to my, outside attention, collectors and galleries were more interested in my prints and my drawings, and that there was a general, higher level of interest in that. So I kind of decided, in terms of a career move, I guess you could say, that I would begin to limit my painting to only watercolor painting, because I felt that oil painting, I was still learning how to paint in oil at the age of 30 or 40. I mean, I felt that it was in the beginning, it was such a foreign, it was so different than all the drawing I did when I was young, my younger aspect of life. And so, and while I felt I could continue to develop the painting, I felt like it was very difficult to do both. It was very difficult to be a printmaker, to make sometimes large scale finished drawings, and also to be painting at the same time. It was because the painting really needs to be, I think, the focal point. With sometimes where you might leave that painting, you may leave the painting, but to do it continually, balancing the three. So I really shifted more into working with printmaking, lithographs, etchings, and monoprints, and then my drawings. This last year, I've been I think I did one etching in 2020. And I don't know if I did any painting. Nothing's coming to mind. Pretty much purely drawing, but drawing with different medium, moving around and trying different scales, and also different drawing in different medium. But which means probably in this next year, I probably will move around a little bit more and go back to, I hope to make some more prints and maybe some painting. I don't have anything set in my mind specifically, but I know from the past that if I've done one thing for a certain period of time, I generally find myself being attracted to other areas and working in other medium.
Really, it's really interesting. I do painting quite a lot. I do painting in oil quite a lot, and obviously I still learning how to paint, even because I'm still quite young, and I think you're never gonna finish learning as well with drawings as well. It seems like obviously drawing it's only pencil and charcoal, but you can still learn even after like years that you use it. So if you just like the way you use it, the different quality of the drawing, different quality of the pencil, of the charcoal, of the paint, it's always like a learning process, and that's even the beauty of it, obviously.
Right, and as I said, I actually wrote a piece for a blog I was asked to write for. I wrote about how I maintain my drawing interest in the drawings by adding. Lately, it's been adding different techniques together, and also integrating color into it. And if you look at some of the drawings, starting about 7 years ago, very slowly, color began to enter in. First as just a second color, a third color, and then more color into the drawing process. I find it's really important. As I said, the whole game is to keep myself interested. If I'm interested, I know I'll do my best work, and if I'm interested, I'll continue to work. And so I'm always looking for something that'll spur that interest. And without that interest, it's very flat, and it's very, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this at this point? So you have to continually find ways to stay interested, to stay engaged in making art, I think.
As I said, I completely agree with that. Bill, I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you very much to be part of the podcast and spend your morning with me. And thank you again.
No, it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed getting to know you.
That's great. Before we go, do you wanna plug in if you have a website, social media, stuff like that, where people
Yeah.
can find you?
So my website is a burning light, all one word, .com. And I have a new book which is on there, which is actually a pretty major endeavor in that it's about it's almost 200 pages and it's full color and it's basically 40 years of drawing and painting. So
Nice.
pretty extensive book. Yeah, it's a large scale size book. So there's a whole dedicated page to that. So if people visit, they'd be able to take a look at that. And
That's great.
yeah, so I appreciate your offering me this opportunity to talk a little bit.
That's what we do. We need to support each other in any way that we can. Why not?
Great.
That's great. Thank you very much, Bill, again. Thank you.
Thank you.